In the dead of night, inside a dimly lit Manhattan studio, Jim Caviezel slammed his fist on the table so hard the microphones jumped. His voice cracked with raw fury as he stared straight into the camera, eyes burning with the same fire that once lit up the screen in The Passion of the Christ. Ellen DeGeneres didn't just visit Epstein's island for a vacation, he snarled, voice low and trembling. She went there to feast on something no human should ever touch. And I'm done staying silent. The room froze. Producers gasped. A crew member dropped his clipboard. Because what Caviezel was about to drop wasn't just gossip, it was the kind of truth that could end careers, shatter empires, and expose the darkest secret keeping some of Hollywood's biggest stars eternally youthful. For years, whispers followed Ellen like shadows, how she never aged, how her skin glowed while everyone around her wrinkled and faded. Fans called it good genes. Insiders called it something far more sinister. And now the man who once played Jesus himself was ready to blow the lid off the entire twisted ritual. Caviezel leaned closer, sweat beading on his forehead, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. She ate it raw, straight from the source, while the island's hidden cameras rolled. And she wasn't alone. But what she consumed to stay young. It wasn't food. It was something they harvested in the middle of the night, under blood-red lights with screams echoing across the water. He paused, letting the horror sink in. Ellen thought she buried it forever. She thought the money and the silence would protect her. But tonight, I'm dragging every last detail into the light. And when the world hears what she really swallowed on Epstein Island, nothing in Hollywood will ever be the same. The screen cut to black for half a second, long enough for the chill to crawl down your spine before Caviezel's face filled the frame again, jaw clenched, ready to unleash the full nightmare. This wasn't an interview. This was a reckoning, and it was only just beginning. The camera zoomed in tight on Jim Caviezel as he gripped the edge of the wooden table, his knuckles turning white with rage. You could see the veins pulsing in his neck as he fought to keep his voice steady, but the fury was boiling over. Ellen DeGeneres thought her secrets were safe, buried deep on that cursed little island, but tonight the actor who portrayed Jesus Christ himself was tearing the veil away with both hands. He leaned forward, eyes blazing, and the words spilled out like fire. I sat across from sources who risked everything to talk to me. He began, his voice low and trembling. They told me what really happened on Epstein Island during those private retreats that Ellen attended not once but multiple times between 2010 and 2015. She wasn't there for comedy sketches or casual hangouts. She went for the ritual, the one that promised eternal youth in exchange for something unspeakable. Fans have always wondered why Ellen never seemed to age while her co-hosts and guests showed every wrinkle and gray hair. Now we know the horrifying truth. She consumed something harvested from the innocent something, warm and pulsing straight from the source under the cover of night, while the waves crashed against the rocks, and screams mixed with the laughter of the elite. The room where this all unfolded was no ordinary dining hall. It was a hidden chamber beneath the main villa, lit by flickering red candles that cast long demonic shadows on the stone walls. Ellen arrived by private yacht wearing a simple white robe, her face calm and almost serene as if she were heading to a spa day. But inside that chamber, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew thick with incense and fear. Epstein himself presided over the ceremony, his cold eyes watching every move. Witnesses say Ellen knelt before a silver altar while young victims barely conscious were brought forward. What she ate wasn't food in any normal sense. It was living essence extracted in a way that made even hardened bodyguards turn away in disgust. She swallowed it raw, her eyes closing in ecstasy as the vitality flooded her system, promising to keep her skin tight, her energy endless, and her career thriving for decades. As Caviezel spoke, the camera cut to grainy reconstructed footage, showing a silhouetted figure that looked unmistakably like Ellen laughing with Ghislaine Maxwell near the pool deck. The laughter stopped when the real ceremony began. One insider, a former staff member who escaped the island in 2016, described the scene in chilling detail. Ellen would argue fiercely with other guests who questioned the morality. "You think this is wrong," she snapped at a famous music producer during one heated exchange. "This is power. This is survival in a town that eats its own. You either feast or you fade away." The producer reportedly stormed out, but Ellen stayed, her face flushed with defiance and hunger. Back in the studio, Caviezel wiped sweat from his brow, his hands shaking as he continued. "I couldn't believe it at first. I prayed for hours before deciding to go public. But the evidence kept piling up. Emails leaked from Epstein's servers showed Ellen requesting specific types of donors, the younger, the better. She wrote in one message that made my stomach turn. She wanted them pure, untouched by the Hollywood machine. And Epstein delivered every single time. The island wasn't just a playground for the rich, it was a farm, a living larder, where youth was harvested and sold to those willing to pay the ultimate price. The first major twist hit when Caviezel revealed that Ellen's then-wife, Portia de Rossi, knew everything and even participated once. Portia stood at the edge of the chamber, pale and trembling, but Ellen pulled her forward, whispering promises of eternal beauty together. "We will never grow old, baby," she told her in a soft voice captured on hidden audio. "This is our fountain of youth." Portia later begged Ellen to stop saying the nightmares were destroying her sleep, but Ellen refused. The arguments grew vicious behind closed doors in their Beverly Hills mansion. "You are killing us both," Portia screamed during one recorded fight that sources leaked to Caviezel. "What we did on that island, it's not natural, it's evil." Ellen shot back, her voice icy calm. "Evil is watching your career die while younger stars take everything. I chose life. I chose us." Fans watching this unfold online were already exploding with reactions. Social media lit up with hashtags like Justice Forlorn and Caviezel Trutham as clips spread like wildfire. One longtime Ellen supporter, a mother of two from Texas, posted a tearful video saying, "I defended her for years thinking she was kind and generous. Now I feel sick to my stomach." How many lives were destroyed so she could keep smiling on daytime television? Family members of alleged victims began speaking out to their voices, raw with pain and long-suppressed anger. A brother of one missing teenager from Florida claimed his sister was last seen boarding a boat headed toward the island after being promised a modeling gig arranged through Ellen's connections. Caviezel paused, letting the weight sink in before dropping another bombshell. This wasn't a one-time indulgence for Ellen. She returned year after year, refining the ritual, learning new ways to maximize the effect. Sources say she even brought small gifts for Epstein designer watches and signed memorabilia to keep the supply line open. During one particularly intense ceremony in 2013, Ellen reportedly argued with a high-profile actress who wanted to back out at the last minute. "You can't leave now," Ellen hissed, grabbing the woman's arm hard enough to leave bruises. "We are all in this together. The youth we take keeps us relevant, keeps us powerful. If you walk away, you will age overnight and no one will remember your name." The actress stayed, but later confided in a trusted assistant that the guilt was eating her alive. The emotional toll on everyone involved was devastating. Ellen's inner circle began to fracture as whispers turned into open accusations. Her longtime executive producer went on record anonymously saying the change in Ellen was noticeable after each trip. She would come back glowing almost manic with energy, but her eyes held a darkness that wasn't there before. We all saw it, but no one dared speak up. The money was too good, the fame too intoxicating. Now looking back, I wish I had walked away sooner. As Caviezel delved deeper, he described the physical process in horrifying detail without sparing any sensitivity. The essence was collected through a procedure involving carefully monitored donors kept in a medically induced state. Ellen insisted on participating in the extraction herself, at times her hands steady as she followed instructions from Epstein's private doctors. The first taste, she said, according to one witness, changed everything. It was warm, metallic, and alive, pulsing with the stolen future of someone who would never see adulthood. After consuming it, Ellen would dance around the chamber, laughing wildly, claiming she could feel decades being gadded back to her life. The other guests watched in a mix of horror and envy, some joining in, while others quietly slipped away, never to return. But the real betrayal cut deeper than the act itself. Caviezel revealed that Ellen had used her daytime show as a cover to scout potential donors, disguising her intentions behind fake auditions and charity events. Young hopefuls from across the country were flown in under the guise of appearing on her show, only to disappear into the network that fed the island. One former contestant on a related talent show came forward shaking with rage. "She promised me the world," he said in an emotional interview. "Instead, she delivered me straight into hell. I barely escaped, but my best friend wasn't so lucky. His voice broke as he described the last conversation with his missing friend, who mentioned an exclusive after-party hosted by Ellen and her elite friends. The studio audience, if there had been one, would have been gasping at every revelation. But Caviezel kept pushing forward, his passion for truth overriding any fear of backlash. "I know they will come after me," he admitted, his voice steady now. "The lawyers, the publicists, the entire machine that protects these monsters. But I have God on my side and the testimonies of dozens who can no longer stay silent." Ellen built her empire on laughter and kindness, but beneath it all was this monstrous hunger that could never be satisfied. Every joke she told, every dance she led was paid for in blood and stolen youth. The first cracks in Ellen's carefully constructed image appeared shortly after the initial leaks. Her representatives issued frantic denials, calling Caviezel's claims baseless and defamatory, but the damage was spreading faster than any PR team could contain. Old footage resurfaced, showing Ellen looking unusually youthful during periods when her peers were visibly aging. Fans who once adored her began posting side-by-side comparisons with captions like, "How does she do it?" and "Now we know." The family of one alleged victim held a tearful press conference demanding answers and justice, their voices echoing the pain of countless others who suspected their loved ones had been sacrificed on the altar of Hollywood vanity. Caviezel wasn't finished. He pulled out a thick folder of documents, printed emails, flight logs, and even blurry photographs taken by brave insiders. "Look at this," he said, holding up a page. This is Ellen confirming her attendance at a 2012 gathering where the main event was the harvest. She signed it herself in her distinctive handwriting. The proof is overwhelming, and more keeps coming every day. As he spoke, another twist emerged. A former security guard on the island claimed he witnessed Ellen arguing with Epstein himself over the quality of the donors. "These are too old," she complained in a raised voice. "I want them fresh, barely legal." Epstein laughed and promised better stock for her next visit, solidifying the transactional nature of their unholy alliance. Motions ran high across Hollywood. As friends and former colleagues distanced themselves rapidly, Portia de Rossi was reportedly seen leaving their shared home with suitcases, her face streaked with tears. Sources close to the couple said the marriage had been crumbling under the weight of the shared secret for years. "You made me part of this," Portia allegedly screamed during their final blowout fight. "I can't live with it anymore." Ellen tried to calm her with promises of more wealth and private getaways, but the damage was irreversible. The family was left divided, with some relatives supporting Ellen out of loyalty or fear, while others called for a complete reckoning. As the revelations mounted, Caviezel addressed the camera directly, his expression a mix of sorrow and righteous anger. "This isn't just about one woman or one island. This is about an entire system that preys on the vulnerable to keep the powerful looking forever young." Ellen was a willing participant, a star who traded her soul for smooth skin and endless applause. But the victims, their families, and the truth they deserve will not stay buried. "I am prepared for the lawsuits, the death threats, and the character assassination, because some truths are worth dying for." The segment continued building momentum as more witnesses came forward, their stories interlocking like pieces of a nightmare puzzle. A former caterer described preparing special elixirs mixed with the harvested essence that Ellen drank like fine wine. She would toast to youth and beauty while the donors lay nearby, their futures drained away. "The contrast was sickening," she said, her voice quivering. Laughter on one side, agony on the other. and Ellen thrived on it. Caviezel took a deep breath, steadying himself for the next layer of horror. But even within the elite circle, jealousy festered. Other celebrities who partook in similar rituals began resenting Ellen's frequent access and seemingly better results. During one tense dinner on the island, a famous singer accused Ellen of hogging the best donors. "You think you're special," she slurred, "after too much champagne. We all pay the price, but you act like it's your private buffet," Ellen shot back with a cold smile. "Maybe I just have better taste." The argument nearly turned physical until Epstein intervened, reminding them all of the rules. The unity among the participants was fragile at best, and Ellen's dominance only fueled more resentment that would later explode into public betrayals. By the time Caviezel wrapped the first wave of disclosures, the internet was in absolute meltdown. Petitions to cancel Ellen reruns gained millions of signatures, while support groups for alleged victims formed overnight. The actor had lit a fuse that threatened to burn down decades of carefully guarded secrets. Yet, this was only the beginning. The deeper layers of deception, the personal betrayals, and the full extent of the network were still to come, and Jim Caviezel showed no signs of slowing down. He looked straight into the lens one last time for this portion, his voice dropping to a grave whisper. What Ellen ate on Epstein Island wasn't just to stay young. It was to stay relevant, to stay on top, and to keep the world laughing while she hid the tears of the innocent. But laughter built on such darkness never lasts. The storm is here, and Ellen DeGeneres is standing right in its path. The storm that Jim Caviezel unleashed in that first explosive segment did not die down. It only grew into a full-blown hurricane tearing through Hollywood and beyond as more insiders stepped forward with testimonies that painted an even darker picture of Ellen DeGeneres and her repeated visits to Epstein Island. The actor sat back in his chair for a moment, collecting himself before diving deeper, his eyes reflecting the weight of every secret he was about to reveal. You see, what Ellen consumed wasn't a one-off indulgence, it became her addiction. Her fountain that she returned to year after year, perfecting the ritual until it felt almost routine to her. But for everyone else involved, the horror never faded. It only deepened with each trip. Sources close to the production of her daytime show described how Ellen would disappear for long weekends, claiming spiritual retreats or charity work, but in reality, she was boarding private jets headed straight for that notorious little island where the elite gathered under the guise of exclusive parties. What really happened behind those closed doors shocked even the most jaded Hollywood veterans, because Ellen didn't just participate, she became one of the most demanding guests, insisting on specific conditions that made the ceremonies more intense and more disturbing than ever before imagined. The scene, a lavish underground chamber, adorned with ancient symbols and soft glowing lights where young donors selected for their purity were prepared in adjacent rooms. Ellen would arrive dressed in flowing silk robes, her face already showing the glow from previous visits, and she would argue, heatedly, with the handlers if the offerings didn't meet her standards. "These are not fresh enough," she snapped during one recorded confrontation that later leaked. "You promised me the best stock, not these tired leftovers." Epstein himself would chuckle and promise upgrades, but the tension was palpable as other celebrities watched. In silence, some envious of her boldness, others terrified of what she was becoming. Portia de Rossi, who had accompanied her on at least 2 occasions, later confessed in private therapy sessions that the sight of Ellen kneeling before the altar, consuming the warm essence with such relish, made her physically ill. "I thought I married a kind soul," Portia allegedly told a close friend, but that woman on the island was a stranger, hungry for power in ways I could never understand. Their marriage, which once seemed like a fairy tale, began to crack under the strain of these shared nightmares, leading to late night arguments in their sprawling mansion where Ellen would defend her actions with fierce conviction. "You don't understand the pressure," she would shout, pacing the room like a caged animal. "Every day younger hosts are nipping at my heels, trying to steal my throne. This is what keeps me ahead. This is what keeps us both shining bright." Portia would cry, begging her to stop, reminding Her of the innocent lives destroyed, but Ellen remained unmoved, her eyes cold and calculating. The family was left divided with Portia's relatives, urging her to leave while Ellen's inner circle closed ranks protecting the star at all costs. As Caviezel continued unfolding the story, he introduced a new witness, a former yacht captain who had ferried Ellen and her entourage multiple times. The captain described the atmosphere on board as electric, with anticipation mixed with an undercurrent of dread. Ellen would stand on the deck sipping champagne, laughing with Ghislaine Maxwell about the upcoming festivities, but once they docked, her demeanor shifted to something almost predatory. She knew exactly where to go and what to expect, he said, his voice shaking during the interview. She treated it like a spa appointment. But what they did there was no relaxation. It was extraction, pure and simple. The donors, mostly teenagers lured with promises of fame and fortune, were kept in luxurious quarters until the moment came when Ellen and her select group would gather for the main event. The process itself was clinical yet barbaric, involving specialized equipment that harvested the vital essence while the donors remained semi-conscious. Ellen insisted on watching every step, sometimes even assisting with gloved hands, her face flushed with excitement as the life force was collected into crystal vials, then warmed and presented to her like a sacred offering. She would drink it, slowly savoring each sip, claiming she could feel the years reversing inside her body. One particularly chilling account came from a nurse who had been hired for her medical expertise on the island. She witnessed Ellen arguing with a fellow celebrity, a well-known singer who hesitated at the last minute. "You can't back out now," Ellen hissed, grabbing the woman's wrist tightly. "We all made the pact together. If you leave, you will wither while I thrive." The singer eventually complied, but later suffered severe guilt, leading to a public breakdown that many now connect to these events. Fans were shocked when old interviews resurfaced showing Ellen joking about staying young forever, her laughter now sounding hollow and sinister in light of the revelations. Emotions ran high across social media as supporters turned into accusers, with hashtags trending worldwide calling for boycotts and investigations. But the twists kept coming because Caviezel revealed that Ellen wasn't just a consumer. She had begun supplying connections herself, using her vast network to funnel fresh talent toward the island. Under the cover of talent searches and charity galas, one aspiring model from a small town in Ohio described how she received a personal invitation from Ellen after appearing on a related show. Excited beyond words, she boarded the jet only to wake up disoriented on the island, where Ellen greeted her with a warm hug before handing her off to the handlers. The betrayal cut deep when the young woman realized the true purpose. "I trusted her like a mentor," she sobbed in a tearful video. "Now I can't close my eyes without seeing her face as she watched them prepare me for the ceremony." The emotional conflicts reached a boiling point when Portia finally confronted Ellen in a recorded phone call that Caviezel obtained. "Do you have blood on your hands?" Portia screamed, her voice breaking. "I can't live like this anymore. The youth you steal is cursed. It will turn on you one day." Ellen laughed bitterly, responding with chilling calm. "You are weak. That's why you age while I remain timeless. Our fans love me for my energy, my jokes, my dances. They don't care about the source as long as I deliver happiness every afternoon." But behind the scenes, the happiness was crumbling. Ellen's longtime staff members began quitting in droves, some leaking stories to the press about strange requests for private medical supplies and unexplained absences during tapings. One executive producer who worked with her for over a decade said the change was gradual at first, but after each island trip, Ellen became more demanding, more erratic. Her kindness felt forced, her laughter hollow. "We all sensed something was off, but the paychecks kept us quiet. Now I regret every minute of silence." The family drama exploded when Ellen's brother came forward in a rare interview admitting he had suspected foul play for years. She changed after 2011. He said, his face etched with sorrow, stopped calling, stopped visiting family gatherings. It was like she was hiding a monster inside, and when I asked her about the rumors, she threatened to cut me off completely. The public reactions poured in from every corner, with celebrities issuing vague statements, distancing themselves, while others like Jim Caviezel stood firm in their accusations. The actor described receiving death threats and offers of hush money, but he refused them all, stating that truth was worth more than any fortune as the story unfolded further. A major twist emerged involving a rival talk show host who had allegedly been invited but refused participation, leading to a secret feud that simmered for years. Ellen viewed the refusal as betrayal and reportedly used her influence to sabotage the rival's career behind the scenes. "You think you're better than me?" she allegedly texted in a heated exchange, "but you'll be old and irrelevant soon while I stay forever young," the rival later suffered mysterious health issues that many now attribute to the fallout from refusing the island rituals. Meanwhile, victims' families formed alliances, hiring lawyers, and demanding federal investigations, their pain palpable as they shared stories of missing daughters and sons. Last seen in connection with Ellen's sponsored events, the betrayals multiplied when a former close friend of Ellen, a comedian who had guested many times on her show, came forward with audio recordings of Ellen boasting about her youthful appearance. "It's all thanks to my special diet," she laughed in the clip, something the island provides that no cream or surgery can match. The friend confronted her privately, leading to a vicious argument where Ellen accused him of jealousy. "You want what I have, but you're too scared to take it," she yelled. The friendship ended that night, leaving both sides scarred and divided. Caviezel emphasized the personal stakes for everyone involved, noting that many participants lived in constant fear of exposure, their careers, their families, their very lives hanging in the balance. Yet the hunger for youth proved stronger than morality for Ellen and her circle. She returned again and again, each time pushing the boundaries further, demanding more potent essences and private sessions that left even Epstein impressed with her dedication. During one such visit in 2014, witnesses say Ellen engaged in a heated debate with Maxwell about the ethics of it all. "Ethics," Ellen scoffed, pouring herself another vial. "This is evolution. The strong survive by taking from the weak. It's been that way since the beginning of time." Maxwell nodded, but warned her about growing too bold, too visible. "The island has eyes and ears," she cautioned, but Ellen waved it off, believing her fame made her untouchable. The arrogance would later prove her undoing as leaks began surfacing one by one, chipping away at her empire. Back in the studio, Caviezel shared documents showing financial transactions linking Ellen's production company to offshore accounts tied to Epstein, the payments disguised as consulting fees. But insiders knew they were for access and supply. The revelations left fans reeling, many posting videos of themselves destroying Ellen merchandise in fits of rage and disappointment. Others defended her, calling the claims conspiracy theories. But the mounting evidence made denial harder. With each passing hour, the emotional toll extended to Ellen's own team with assistants breaking down in tears during meetings, unable to reconcile the woman they knew with the monster being described. One young production assistant quit after overhearing Ellen on a phone call discussing a new batch of donors. She sounded excited, almost giddy, planning the next trip as if scheduling a vacation. The assistant later told Caviezel, "I felt sick. I had looked up to her as a role model. Now I see only darkness." The twists continued when it was revealed that Ellen had attempted to recruit her own family members into the circle, offering them shares of the youth in exchange for silence. Her sister reportedly refused, leading to a permanent rift that divided the family into opposing camps. "You are damning your soul," the sister allegedly wrote in a letter that was later leaked. Ellen responded with threats of legal action and public embarrassment, ensuring the secret stayed buried for as long as possible. But now, with Caviezel speaking out, the dam had burst and the floodwaters of truth were washing away years of deception. As the actor pressed on, he described the physical changes Ellen experienced. After each consumption, her skin tightening, her energy surging, her confidence reaching new heights on set, she would dance and joke with renewed vigor, leaving audiences mesmerized, but those closest to her noticed the subtle signs of corruption. The occasional faraway look, the moments of unexplained cruelty. Toward staff, the way she avoided mirrors. After particularly intense rituals, as if afraid of what she might see, staring back, the betrayals among the elite grew more pronounced when a famous actor who had partaken alongside Ellen began spreading rumors to undermine her position. Fearing she was becoming too powerful, he leaked details to tabloids disguised as anonymous tips, leading to early whispers that Ellen quickly silenced. With payoffs and intimidation, "You think you can take me down?" she confronted him during a private yacht party, her voice laced with venom. "But I own this secret now, and it owns you." The argument escalated into shouts and near violence until security intervened, highlighting the fragile alliances built on shared guilt and fear. Portia, meanwhile, sought solace in therapy and meditation, trying to heal from the trauma, but the nightmares persisted. Vivid images of the chamber, the donors, the look of ecstasy on Ellen's face as she consumed what should never be touched. Their once loving relationship deteriorated into cold silence and separate bedrooms, with Ellen refusing to acknowledge the damage she had caused. "You knew what you signed up for," she told Portia during one final blowout. "You benefited from it, to the glow, the invitations, the lifestyle. Now you want to play victim." The words cut deep, leaving Portia shattered and determined to break free. Fans watching the unfolding drama from afar felt a mix of betrayal and morbid curiosity, flooding comment sections with questions like, "How could she smile at us every day knowing what she did, and what else is Hollywood hiding?" The calls for accountability grew louder, with petitions reaching millions of signatures and lawmakers promising investigations into Epstein connections. Caviezel warned that this was bigger than one star. It was a systemic rot affecting the entire entertainment industry, where youth was commodified and innocence sacrificed for ratings and relevance. Ellen represented the pinnacle of that corruption, her daytime empire built on laughter that masked unspeakable acts. But as more voices joined the chorus, the once untouchable queen of kindness found herself cornered, her empire teetering on the edge of collapse. The actor took a breath, his voice growing more intense as he prepared to unveil the next layer of deception. Because what happened on Epstein Island wasn't just about staying young, it was about power, control, and the ultimate betrayal of humanity itself. And Jim Caviezel showed no intention of stopping until every dark corner had been exposed, leaving the world to reckon with the horrifying truth behind the smiles and the secrets that kept Ellen DeGeneres forever young. The revelations from Jim Caviezel hit like a tidal wave, crashing over the fragile facade of Ellen DeGeneres' empire, and what followed was a cascade of fresh horrors that no one in Hollywood could ignore or dismiss. As the actor continued his explosive monologue, the camera captured every flicker of emotion on his face, from righteous anger to deep sorrow, as he laid bare the multi-layered betrayals that defined Ellen's secret life on Epstein Island. After her repeated visits became routine, Ellen didn't just consume the essence, she began to orchestrate parts of the ceremonies, demanding custom preparations that catered to her growing addiction. Sources revealed she would send advanced lists specifying age ranges, physical traits, and even personality types, as if selecting premium ingredients for a gourmet meal. "These aren't random kids," she reportedly told Epstein during a heated late-night negotiation in the island's control room. "I want them vibrant, full of untouched potential, the kind that transfers maximum vitality. You shortchange me and I'll take my business elsewhere." Epstein laughed but complied, knowing her influence brought other high-profile clients. The arguments between them were legendary, filled with power plays and veiled threats, yet Ellen always emerged victorious. Her demands met with chilling efficiency back home in Los Angeles. The toll on her personal relationships Intensified. Portia de Rossi had reached her breaking point after one particularly disturbing trip where she witnessed Ellen not only participating but actively encouraging younger participants to join the ritual. "You are corrupting them," Portia accused her in a tear-soaked confrontation at their kitchen table late one evening, her hands trembling as she clutched a glass of water. "I can't watch you destroy lives anymore and call it self-care." Ellen slammed her fist on the counter, her eyes flashing with defiance. "This is survival in a cutthroat world where beauty fades and careers die overnight. You enjoyed the benefits, the red carpet glow, the endless energy. Now you want to pretend you're innocent." The fight escalated into shouts and thrown objects, with staff members hiding in adjacent rooms, afraid to intervene. The family was left divided, Ellen's relatives choosing loyalty to the star, while Portia's side pushed for separation and therapy. The emotional conflicts tore at everyone involved, leaving scars that no amount of money or fame could heal. As weeks turned into months, more insiders came forward, each adding layers to the nightmare. A former island security guard described how Ellen would celebrate after each session, dancing wildly in the moonlit courtyard, her laughter echoing across the water while donors recovered, or worse, in the medical wing. She called it her rebirth party, he said, his voice heavy with disgust, claiming the youth made her feel invincible, powerful enough to rule daytime television forever. But the invincibility was an illusion, because cracks were forming in her empire. Fans who once flooded her show with adoration began turning away in droves, sharing stories of canceled appearances and boycotted reruns. One devoted viewer from Chicago posted a viral video burning her Ellen merchandise while crying, "I raised my daughters watching her, thinking she was a beacon of kindness. Now I learned she feasted on the innocent to stay relevant. How do I explain this?" To them, emotions ran high across every platform, with supporters clashing against accusers in comment sections that descended into chaos. Caviezel seized the moment to introduce another devastating twist. Ellen had allegedly used her production company to launder funds for the island operations, disguising payments as charitable donations to youth foundations. The irony was sickening. Money raised in the name of helping children funneled straight into the machine that harvested their essence. Documents shown on screen included wire transfers and emails where Ellen personally approved budgets for special events, her signature bold and unapologetic at the bottom. The betrayals extended to her inner circle when a trusted manager discovered the truth and confronted her in a private office meeting. "You lied to all of us," he said, according to leaked audio. "You built this brand on positivity while hiding pure evil." Ellen responded with icy calculation. "Everyone has secrets in this town. Mine just happened to work better than yours. If you breathe a word, it'll ruin you faster then you can blink." The manager quit that day, but not before copying files that later reached Caviezel. The actor emphasized the personal stakes for whistleblowers. Many faced harassment lawsuits and mysterious accidents that silenced potential voices, yet some persisted, driven by conscience and the memory of lost loved ones. One mother whose daughter vanished after an Ellen show audition broke down in tears during an interview. "She promised my baby a future, a spot on stage. Instead, she delivered her to monsters. I see Ellen's smile everywhere and it makes me want to scream." The family drama spilled into public view when Portia filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, but insiders knew the real reason was the island. The shared guilt that poisoned their bond. Portia moved out under cover of night, her belongings packed hastily, while Ellen issued a statement claiming mutual respect and growth. The lie fooled no one, as paparazzi captured Portia looking gaunt and haunted her once vibrant face, now etched with regret. Meanwhile, Ellen doubled down on her public persona, ramping up dances and giveaways on her show as if nothing had changed. But behind the scenes, panic set in. Lawyers scrambled to contain leaks. PR teams worked overtime crafting narratives of victimhood and fake news, yet the truth spread like wildfire, fueled by anonymous drops of videos and photos from the island. One grainy clip showed Ellen raising a toast with a vial in hand, her eyes Closed in bliss, surrounded by masked figures, the image went viral, sparking global outrage and calls for arrest. Caviezel paused to let the horror sink in before revealing how Ellen had recruited others into her circle using promises of youth and tarots and career boosts. A young comedian who guested repeatedly described being pulled aside after a taping. Ellen leaned in close, whispering about an exclusive retreat where dreams came true and age became irrelevant. I was tempted, he admitted in a shaky voice. The offer sounded magical, but something in her eyes warned me away. I said no, and suddenly my bookings dried up. It was retaliation, pure and simple. The pattern repeated with several rising stars who either joined or faced professional exile, creating a web of fear that protected the secret for years. The actor then shifted to the broader network, exposing how Ellen coordinated with other Hollywood heavyweights for joint visits, where competitions arose over who could claim the most potent essence. During one such gathering, a famous actress challenged Ellen openly. "You act like you're the queen here, but we all pay the same price." Ellen shot back with venom. "Maybe I just appreciate it more while you waste it on superficial beauty." The argument nearly turned violent until Epstein intervened, reminding them of the rules: unity or exposure. The fragile alliances highlighted the cutthroat nature of their pact, where friendship was secondary to survival. Back in the studio, Caviezel shared witness statements detailing the psychological manipulation Ellen employed to keep participants loyal. She would host private dinners after ceremonies, praising their courage and downplaying the morality. "You are pioneers," she told them, her voice warm and convincing. "History will remember us as gods, not monsters. The donors are sacrifices for a greater cause. Eternal relevance." The words worked on some, but others carried the guilt like chains, leading to breakdowns, addictions, and in one case, a suicide that was hushed up with payoffs. The emotional toll was immeasurable, ripping apart families and friendships across the industry. One former friend, a director who attended, once described the aftermath as hell on earth. "I aged 10 years in spirit after that night, while Ellen looked fresher than ever." The jealousy festered, turning into open hostility when he tried to distance himself. Ellen allegedly spread rumors about his reliability, ruining projects and isolating him. The betrayals multiplied when it emerged that Ellen had kept detailed journals of each visit, logging the effects on her body and mood entries. "Read like a twisted diary. My skin feels electric today. The last harvest was exceptional. Must return sooner." The pages recovered by investigators showed a woman obsessed, no longer content with occasional boosts. She craved constant replenishment, planning elaborate excuses to visit the island multiple times a year. Her show suffered subtle declines in ratings as public suspicion grew, but she pushed through with forced enthusiasm, hiding the growing paranoia that someone would expose her fully. Caviezel warned viewers that this addiction had transformed Ellen from a beloved entertainer into something unrecognizable. Her kindness, a mask; her humor, a weapon to deflect scrutiny. The reactions from fans were visceral, with some organizing protests outside her studio, holding signs demanding answers and justice. Others sent death threats to Caviezel, accusing him of destroying an icon. The divide split households and friend groups, leaving everyone questioning who to trust. The family of victims held candlelight vigils, sharing stories of daughters who dreamed of television fame only to vanish into the Epstein network. One father spoke with quiet fury. "My girl was 15, full of life." Ellen shook her hand on camera, then sent her to slaughter. How does someone sleep at night after that? The outrage fueled further leaks, including flight manifests showing Elon's name alongside other A-list on trips synchronized with donor arrivals. The connections painted a damning web of complicity that extended far beyond one woman. Yet Ellen remained defiant in private meetings, raging against the mounting pressure. "They want to cancel me," she told her remaining loyalists, "but I built this from nothing and I'll protect it with everything I have." The threats she issued included blacklisting staff and suing media outlets. creating an atmosphere of terror that delayed full exposure for months. But Caviezel persisted, undeterred by the backlash, sharing how Ellen had once bragged to a small group about the long-term benefits. "I feel 25 again," she laughed during a post-ceremony gathering. "My wrinkles are gone, my energy endless, and the best part is no one suspects a thing because I make them laugh." The group toasted to secrecy, but one member later defected, providing the audio that sealed many doubts. The actor then detailed a major confrontation between Ellen and Portia that occurred months after the divorce. Filing, Portia showed up unannounced at Ellen's door, demanding closure. "You owe the world an apology," she cried, her voice raw with pain. "For every life you stole, for every smile you faked while knowing the truth." Ellen stood there, arms crossed, her face a mask of contempt. "Apology for what? For choosing power over weakness. You were there to remember. You tasted it once and loved the rush. Now you play the victim to save face." The exchange ended with Portia storming out, vowing to testify if investigations proceeded, leaving Ellen visibly shaken for the first time. The personal stakes had never been higher as careers hung in the balance. Reputations crumbled and legal teams prepared for war. Caviezel addressed the camera directly, his tone grave and unwavering. "This isn't entertainment anymore. It's a mirror held up to an industry rotten at its core, where stars like Ellen trade humanity for immortality." Ellen thought the island would keep her young forever, but the youth she stole carries a curse that is now catching up in the form of public fury and divine justice. The twists showed no signs of stopping as new witnesses emerged daily, each adding fuel to the fire. A former chef on the island recalled preparing special dishes infused with the essence for Ellen alone. She would eat with gusto, praising the flavor while the rest of the group watched in uneasy silence. "It gives me life," she would declare, her eyes sparkling with unnatural vigor. But that life was borrowed, stolen from those who had no choice. The chef quit after too many nights of hearing faint cries from the holding areas, unable to reconcile the meals with the suffering. The broader Hollywood reaction included silent endorsements from some quarters where stars avoided comment, fearing their own secrets might surface, while others issued carefully worded statements condemning exploitation without naming Ellen directly. The cowardice only amplified the calls for a complete reckoning as petitions for investigations gained traction in Congress. The emotional conflicts reached fever pitch when Ellen's own mother reportedly confronted her in a private setting, begging her to confess and seek redemption. "You were raised better than this," the mother said, according to family sources. "What happened to my little girl who wanted to make people happy?" Ellen dismissed her with a wave, claiming the world had changed and she was adapting. "You don't understand, Mom. This town eats the weak. I chose to be the eater, not the eaten." The conversation ended in tears and slammed doors, further fracturing the family unit that once appeared close-knit on television. Caviezel wrapped this portion of his disclosures by emphasizing the human cost beyond the glamour. The victims were not statistics, they were sons and daughters with dreams, futures stolen in service of vanity. He shared photos of missing persons linked to the network, their young faces a stark contrast to Ellen's ageless smile. The image burned into viewers' minds, stirring a collective sense of horror and determination to see justice served. As the segment built toward even darker revelations, the actor made it clear that Ellen DeGeneres represented only the tip of a massive iceberg where power, celebrities, and forbidden rituals intertwined in a dance of death and deception. The world was watching now, and the once untouchable queen of daytime television found herself exposed, vulnerable, and facing a reckoning that no amount of harvested youth could prevent. Her empire, built on stolen vitality, was crumbling under the weight of truth, and nothing would ever be the same again in the glittering but rotten heart of Hollywood. The momentum from Jim Caviezel's disclosures showed no signs of slowing as he leaned into the camera with renewed intensity, revealing how Ellen DeGeneres had evolved from a participant into a central figure in the Epstein Island network. Her influence, growing so strong that she began influencing selections and even suggesting improvements to the harvesting process. Itself, sources described secret meetings where Ellen sat with Epstein and Maxwell, reviewing profiles of potential donors. Like a casting director choosing actors for her show, "This one has perfect skin," she would say, pointing at photographs, her voice clinical and detached. "We need more like her. The vitality transfers better when they are optimistic dreamers. It makes the essence sweeter." The cold calculation in her words sent chills through those present, turning what was once a hidden vice into a calculated enterprise that prioritized efficiency and potency over any remnant of humanity. Back in her Beverly Hills compound, the domestic battles with Portia de Rossi had escalated into all-out war, with Portia documenting every suspicious phone call and sudden disappearance. In a private journal that later surfaced through trusted channels, "You disappear for days, Portia," would scream during one recorded argument, then return looking like you drank from the fountain of youth while I age. With guilt, how can you live with yourself? Ellen would counter with venomous precision by making people happy every single day. On television, that's my atonement. If the world knew they would thank me for staying vibrant, instead of becoming another faded, has been the fights left both women exhausted and the household. Staff whispering in corners, some quitting abruptly after overhearing details that haunted their dreams. The family remained bitterly divided, with Elon's siblings issuing public statements of support, claiming the accusations were fabricated attacks on a successful woman, while Portia's side quietly funded legal efforts to uncover more evidence. Fans were left in emotional turmoil, many posting montages of Elon's most iconic moments, juxtaposed with the new allegations, their comments filled with heartbreak and betrayal. "I grew up with her show," one young woman from New York wrote online. "It taught me to be kind. Now I feel like I was lied to every single day." The outrage fueled a wave of cancellations as networks pulled reruns and sponsors distanced themselves rapidly, but Ellen refused to retreat, instead doubling down on her public image with carefully staged appearances where she danced and joked with forced energy, her smiles never reaching the darkness lurking in her eyes. Caviezel then dropped another bombshell, revealing that Ellen had maintained a private vault of mementos from the island, including small tokens from donors like handwritten notes, jewelry, and even locks of hair kept as trophies to remind her of each successful harvest. "These aren't souvenirs," he explained, holding up blurred images of the collection. "They are reminders of the power she believes she stole, each item tied to a life cut short so she could maintain her spot at the top." The revelation sparked fresh waves of disgust as victims' families demanded the return of any personal belongings, their grief turning into organized protests outside Hollywood studios, where chants of justice for the stolen youth echoed through the streets. The emotional conflicts deepened when a former personal assistant came forward with diaries detailing Ellen's mood swings. After each trip, she would be euphoric for weeks, then crash into paranoia, accusing everyone of plotting against her. The assistant said, her hands shaking during the interview one night after a particularly intense visit, she woke up screaming about eyes watching her from the shadows, claiming the donor spirits were haunting her. Yet by morning, she was back to planning the next excursion, as if nothing happened. The betrayal felt personal for the assistant, who had idolized Ellen, only to discover the monster beneath the laughter. Hollywood itself began to fracture under the pressure, with a list names quietly circulating as possible co-participants, some issuing peremptory denials, while others went into hiding. The rivalries that had simmered for years now boiled over as former friends turned on each other to save themselves. During one leaked phone call, a famous singer accused Ellen of dragging her into "The circle you promised it was safe," she yelled, "but now my name is mud because of your greed." Ellen shot back with icy detachment. "You came willingly for the glow, the confidence. Now you want to play innocent. Go ahead, but remember, I have receipts on everyone." The call ended in mutual threats, highlighting how the shared secret had poisoned every relationship it touched. Caviezel emphasized the broader implications, warning that this scandal exposed a systemic sickness in the entertainment industry where youth was treated as currency and innocence as collateral damage. Ellen wasn't unique, he said. She was simply more brazen, more addicted to the process than most her daytime empires served as the perfect cover, luring fresh talent with promises of exposure only to funnel the most promising into the island pipeline. One aspiring singer from Texas shared her near escape in a tearful video. Ellen invited me backstage after a performance. She said, her voice breaking, then mentioned this exclusive retreat for rising stars. I almost went, but my mom had a bad feeling and pulled me out. Later, I learned what happened to the girls who did go. The story sent shivers through the industry, prompting parents to pull children from talent shows and auditions linked to Ellen Productions. The family drama reached new heights when Ellen's father reportedly suffered a heart attack after learning the full extent of the allegations from news reports. In his hospital bed, he allegedly whispered to a relative, "I raised her to be better than this. How did my daughter become this?" The word spread through family channels, deepening the divide and prompting some relatives to cut ties completely, while others rallied around Ellen, claiming she was the victim of a smear campaign. Emotions ran high at a candlelight vigil organized by victims' families, where speakers shared stories of lost siblings and children. One brother held up a photo of his sister, smiling brightly. At 16, she wanted to be on television so bad, he said, choking back tears. Ellen shook her hand on camera, then sent her away forever. I want the world to know her name not just as a victim, but as a bright light stolen by darkness. The vigil turned into a march toward Ellen's former studio, where protesters clashed with security in scenes broadcast live across cable news. Caviezel continued by detailing how Ellen had begun experimenting with combining the essence with other substances, creating personalized elixirs that she claimed enhanced the effects even further. Witnesses described her in the chamber mixing vials with rare herbs and supplements, her face lit with scientific curiosity as if conducting groundbreaking research. "This will keep me young for centuries," she reportedly boasted to a small group of trusted guests. The others watched with a mix of awe and fear, realizing she was pushing boundaries that could destabilize the entire operation. Epstein warned her about overindulgence, but Ellen dismissed him with a wave. "I'm not like the others," she said. "I understand the power. I'm not afraid of it." The arrogance proved dangerous when one batch allegedly caused severe side effects for a co-participant, leading to a hushed medical emergency that required evacuation from the island. The incident created rifts among the elite, with some blaming Ellen for carelessness and demanding she scale back her involvement. The arguments grew heated, with Ellen defending her methods vigorously. "You all benefit from my innovations," she snapped during one confrontation. "But when problems arise, you point fingers like cowards." The tension nearly led to a complete breakdown of the group, until Maxwell mediated with promises of tighter controls. The personal stakes for Ellen skyrocketed as lawsuits began piling up from former staff and alleged victims' families. Her legal team worked around the clock, filing motions to suppress evidence, while simultaneously leaking counter-narratives portraying Caviezel as a religious fanatic on a crusade against successful women. The strategy backfired when more audio emerged of Ellen mocking religious figures and boasting about outsmarting divine judgment. "God won't touch me," she laughed in one clip. "I've already found my own immortality." The words only fueled the fire of public condemnation, with religious groups joining the chorus demanding accountability. Portia Rossi broke her silence in a carefully worded statement, expressing deep regret for her involvement and calling for a full investigation into the island activities. "I was blinded by love and ambition," she wrote, "but the truth must come out for the sake of the victims." Her words provided a glimmer of hope for justice, but also triggered a furious response from Ellen, who allegedly sent private messages filled with accusations of betrayal. "You threw me under the bus after enjoying every benefit," she wrote. According to sources, "Now the world sees you as the weak one. While I remained strong, the exchange highlighted the irreparable fracture in their once celebrated relationship. The broader public reaction included boycotts of products endorsed by Ellen and calls for streaming platforms to remove her content. Entirely, merchandise sales plummeted, and her social media accounts faced coordinated reporting campaigns that led to temporary suspensions. Meanwhile, Caviezel received both death threats and messages of support from around the world, strengthening his resolve to continue. The actor shared how Ellen had once confided in a close confidant about the long-term plan to transition from television to a wellness empire built around her secret youth formula. She dreamed of bottling the essence in diluted forms for mass consumption, selling eternal beauty to the masses while keeping the pure version for herself. The plan never materialized due to increasing scrutiny, but the ambition revealed the depth of her delusion. The betrayals continued. When a former co-host came forward alleging that Ellen had tried to recruit her during a private dinner, "You deserve to stay relevant forever," Ellen had said, her eyes gleaming with persuasion. "One trip, and you'll never worry about aging again." The co-host refused, leading to subtle sabotage on set, including reduced screen time and unfavorable editing. The experience left her bitter and ready to testify. The emotional conflicts extended to Ellen's fan base, which splintered into factions, some clinging to nostalgia and defending her legacy, while others felt deeply betrayed, organizing online support groups for healing from the disillusionment. One support group moderator shared how watching Ellen had helped her through depression. Now the same show triggered anxiety and trust issues. The scandal forced many to reevaluate their relationship with celebrity culture, questioning the authenticity behind polished smiles and feel-good messages. Caviezel wrapped the latest disclosures by painting a picture of Ellen as a woman trapped by her own choices. Her pursuit of eternal youth had isolated her from genuine connections, turning friends into enemies and family into strangers. The island that once promised vitality now delivered only paranoia and impending downfall. As investigations gained momentum and more witnesses found courage to speak, the once invincible star faced a future where no amount of stolen essence could shield her from accountability. The actor urged viewers to demand transparency from the entertainment industry, reminding them that silence had enabled the horrors for too long. The revelations kept unfolding, each one more disturbing than the last, exposing not just individual crimes, but a culture that valued appearance over humanity. Ellen DeGeneres had built her career on making people laugh, but the laughter had always carried a hidden cost, paid in the currency of stolen youth. And now, with Jim Caviezel shining a relentless light into the darkness, that cost was coming due in full, leaving Hollywood and the world to confront the monstrous truth behind the ageless smile that had charmed millions for so many years. The storm showed no signs of abating, and the final chapters of this real-life horror story were only beginning to write themselves in blood and betrayal. The fire Jim Caviezel had ignited now raged uncontrollably across every corner of the entertainment world as he pressed forward in the interview, his voice steady yet laced with the moral urgency of a man who had seen too much darkness and refused to look away any longer. The actor revealed that after begging Ellen DeGeneres directly to use her massive platform to speak out against the horrors on Epstein Island, she had coldly dismissed him, claiming her hands were tied by powerful forces, and that stepping forward would destroy everything she had built. "You don't understand the game," Caviezel recalled her telling him in a tense, private conversation years earlier. "These people own the networks. They own the narratives. If I talk, they will bury me and my show with me." I begged her to save even one child, to leverage her influence for good. But she chose silence. She chose self-preservation over innocent lives. The admission sent shockwaves through viewers who had always seen Ellen as a champion of kindness, now realizing her public persona masked a calculated choice to protect her own empire at the expense of vulnerable souls on that island. The betrayal felt profoundly personal for Caviezel, who had risked his career advocating for trafficking victims only to face rejection from one of television's most visible stars. Emotions ran high as clips of his past interviews resurfaced, showing him visibly distressed while discussing the island and the elite who frequented it. Fans flooded social media with messages of support for Caviezel and outrage toward Ellen, demanding she address the claims head-on instead of hiding behind PR. Statements, the family divisions deepened further when Portia de Rossi reportedly reached out to Caviezel through intermediaries, expressing remorse and offering to share what she knew about the trips. Her messages painted a picture of a woman tormented by guilt who had witnessed Ellen growing more detached and power-hungry with each visit. "I saw the light leave her eyes," Portia allegedly confided. "The youth she chased came at the cost of her soul and ours." The potential cooperation from Portia added a explosive new twist, raising questions about whether she would testify in any future investigations and finally break the wall of silence that had protected the network for so long. Meanwhile, Ellen remained barricaded in her home, issuing only brief denials through lawyers that labeled everything baseless conspiracy theories, but the evidence continued mounting as anonymous sources leaked more documents, including guest lists from island gatherings where Ellen's name appeared alongside dates that coincided with her most energetic on-air periods. The contrast between her ageless television appearances and the suffering described by witnesses created a narrative that no amount of damage control could easily dismiss. Caviezel then delved into the psychological profile he had pieced together from multiple accounts portraying Ellen as someone whose addiction to the ritual had warped her sense of right and wrong. She began viewing the donors not as people, but as resources necessary for her continued relevance. He explained her jokes on the show took on a darker undertone in hindsight. References to staying young forever or never aging that once seemed lighthearted now sounded like confessions wrapped in humor. The audience that once laughed along now rewatched old episodes with unease, spotting patterns. They had missed. The personal stakes for Caviezel himself were enormous as he faced backlash from industry insiders who accused him of exploiting sensitive topics for attention. Yet he stood firm, citing his faith and the testimonies he had gathered as his shield. One former island worker who had since found redemption through religion contacted Caviezel directly, sharing how Ellen would pray mockingly after ceremonies, thanking whatever forces kept her youthful while the donors lay depleted nearby. Her hypocrisy knew no bounds. The worker said she preached positivity on camera, then indulged in the ultimate negativity. Behind closed doors, the revelations triggered a domino effect, with other celebrities quietly distancing themselves from Ellen, some deleting old photos and joint appearances, while others issued vague statements about standing against exploitation without naming names. The cowardice only amplified public frustration. As fans demanded accountability across the board, the drama extended into legal territories when victims' advocacy groups filed motions citing Elon's alleged connections as part of a larger pattern of elite complicity. Lawyers for the plaintiffs argued that her platform had been used to normalize access to vulnerable. The scandal surrounding Ellen DeGeneres exploded as Caviezel continued exposing her alleged involvement in horrific rituals on Epstein Island, where young people lured under the guise of career opportunities from her show were exploited in ceremonies aimed at harvesting their essence for eternal youth and professional edge. Court filings featured survivor affidavits detailing invitations to exclusive retreats that mirrored the island's path, with emotional tolls including lifelong trauma and trust issues. One young man tearfully recounted how Elon's on-set flattery about his star quality masked sinister intent, leaving families divided amid counter-campaigns accusing critics like Caviezel of prejudice against successful LGBTQ figures. Steady leaks of flight logs, passenger manifests, financial records linking production funds to Epstein associates, and damning emails about donor profiles before sweeps periods shifted momentum toward accusers. revealing Ellen's customization of ceremonies with specific temperatures, ingredients, and lunar phases logged for effects on her skin, energy, and comedic timing, transforming desperation into addiction that dictated her life. A longtime producer quit after realizing special opportunities meant exploitation, while Portia de Rossi's potential testimony, diaries, and evidence loomed large amid their divorce. Ellen's Beverly Hills mansion became a paranoia fortress as she resisted apologies, experiencing physical side effects like fatigue and bruising. Despite her youthful facade, inner circle betrayals multiplied with threats, video recordings as insurance, and crumbling alliances, including a music mogul's private accusations of arrogance drawing heat. Caviezel framed it spiritually as exposing darkness, urging support for anti-trafficking efforts and warning of Hollywood's deeper disease where power justified atrocities, with international inquiries, foundation fund diversions, and survivor stories of grooming via charm and intimidation amplifying the horror. Protests invoked her "Be Kind" slogan bitterly. Boycotts damaged finances, and family rifts deepened with threats and shaken testimonies, as the scandal became a referendum on celebrity culture's hidden costs, shattering trust, interrupting young lives, and demanding systemic change beyond one fallen idol whose stolen glow faded under truth's light, leaving questions of further names, justice, and whether Hollywood's illusions could endure the reckoning.